Wright has made it! The Jaguars have won it! What a magnificent ending in London!
The Jaguars are looking for back-to-back wins this week against the Seahawks.
I promise you, one thing about it, we going home with that dub.
Jeff Lageman breaks down the connection between quarterback and wide receiver in this week's Cadillac Film Room. And we're in the Halloween spirit with the Jaguars alumni and season ticket members. All that and way more ahead right now on Jaguars Weekend.
This is TIAA Bank Jaguars Weekend. TIAA Bank, turn potential into progress. Geico, saving people money on car insurance has been in Geico's playbook for 85 years. Visit geico.com today and see all the ways you could save. And Cadillac, visit your local greater area Jacksonville Cadillac dealer.
I feel good about the second run we're going to go on here, about just the efficiency, and now we've been in the system for a while. Now the excuse of a new system, the excuse of a young quarterback, that's all gone because our young quarterback's playing pretty good.
Yes, this is still a young team with a rookie head coach, but no one feels sorry for you in the NFL. Results matter, despite the experience on the roster. Hello and welcome to TIAA Bank Jaguars Weekend. I'm Ashlyn Sullivan. The Jaguars have some momentum on their side, coming off a bye week following the big win over the Dolphins in London. The schedule gets tougher. The Jags are heading to the West Coast to take on the Seahawks. The bye week could not have come at a better time. This team needed to look at how to get better so they can turn that one victory into a winning streak. The bye week has come and gone. In the next month, the Jaguars will face the toughest part of their schedule. It's time to lock in. The quarterback is playing well. He needs to keep improving to give the Jaguars a chance against the Seahawks.
When it's time to go to work, when we clocked in on Monday, breaks over, it's time to go. And we got a really good game plan so far. It's back to work. We got 11 straight, and there's no time to waste. So we gotta keep working and keep getting better. And I think the guys have a good understanding of that.
On the other side of the ball, the defense is going to have to cover the very large wide receiver, DK Metcalf. They're getting a break with no Russell Wilson. But their biggest ally, confidence, is on their side.
What are we doing now that's better? Yeah. Trusting each other. I feel like that's the part that was missing. I feel like we had so many plays, once a couple busted plays where we playing man-to-man, somebody might leave someone open. Right before we went to London, had a talk of going back to playing for us, playing for this team, the guys in the locker room, understand I have your back and, understanding who you are, we're going to run through a brick wall for you at any moment.
The Jaguars have been cranking crowd noise at practice, trying to prepare for the famous 12th man in Seattle. It's a tough place to play. A great opportunity to pull off the upset. Welcome into the huddle with Brian Sexton and John Oehser. The Jaguars getting ready for a big game against the Seattle Seahawks. And Brian, I remember we were talking about this schedule when it was released way back in the spring, and we said, oh gosh, the Jaguars have to go to Seattle and face Russell Wilson. Well, they don't. They have to face Geno Smith instead, but this is still a tough game because even though the Seahawks aren't living up to expectations, the Jaguars do not normally play well in Seattle.
No, they haven't. They've been there 3 times, Ashlyn, and they've never played well. In fact, there was a stretch in 2 games back-to-back where they were outscored 72-0. So, no, they've not even scored a meaningful touchdown out there since 2001. And you're right, Geno Smith is not Russell Wilson, not even close. Wilson is a borderline, if not full-fledged, Hall of Fame quarterback, and Geno is a career backup. Here's what doesn't change in Seattle, the 12. That is a very difficult place to play, very loud. The fans get into it. With a rookie quarterback, if the noise level cranks up to what is normally out there, it just becomes much more difficult. I don't care who the rookie is, but even for Trevor Lawrence, it's a very difficult. Oh, and by the way, they're playing in Seattle on Halloween, which makes it even crazier.
Boy, that's eerie. I'll tell you why this game worries me. The Jaguars are playing better. They're playing better enough to make this stretch interesting coming up. But the Seahawks right now, they're 2-5. They still believe they're in it in the NFC West. Not in the NFC West, but in the wild card chase. They are a desperate team. They know they need to win or their season's basically over, and they've lost 3 straight at home. It seems to me that this will be a team playing at a high enough adrenaline level to be very, very dangerous. Jaguars get a turnover early and get up, maybe they can get rid of that. But if you give this team, the Seattle Seahawks this week, any chance to believe in itself, they're going to be very dangerous.
Yeah, we always say you never want to be the team against a desperate team, and that is for sure this week. And really, you look at this stretch of schedule. We knew post-bye week it was going to get tough for the Jaguars. And you look at this game, and you look at welcoming the Buffalo Bills to Jacksonville and the Rams game. Truthfully, you looked at this stretch and said, I don't know how they're going to win a game. Now, Brian, you feel a little bit better. There might be one or two, maybe even three, where you might be able to sneak a win in here.
Well, I mean, John used the word interesting. The Jaguars are interesting right now because the young quarterback is playing well, and that's what this season is about. The quarterback is capable of taking this team, putting it on its shoulders, and making some plays. So there are some games in the stretch that begins in Seattle and ends in Nashville in December. And along the way, there's the Niners and the Rams and the Colts and the Bills. You get it, the murderer's row stretch of this schedule. I think they can get some things done. I think they can steal one or maybe two of these games. I'm not going to pick them to beat the Bills. But you've got a Falcons team that's struggling as well. The Niners have all kinds of issues. Seattle isn't Seattle without Russ Wilson. Maybe there's an opportunity for them to create something.
Brian said I used the word interesting to describe the Jaguars right now. The reason for that is I believe they have things offensively they can depend on for maybe the first time since, I'm not even sure when. They have an identity. They like Trevor Lawrence. They like his development. You have to like the running game. Why it's interesting and not overly optimistic is I still don't know what they are in terms of they've only scored 23 points as their season high. They've only beaten the Miami Dolphins, who are a struggling team. Are they good enough to get wins with what's interesting, or are they just good enough to come close? I think that's what you're going to decide in late October and November.
Totally agree. You look at this post-bye week, and the players had 4 days off. The coaches didn't. They were here figuring out what went wrong at the first half of the season and how do we fix it. One of those things is changing the defense. They are primarily a man defense. They're changing to a much more zone defense. Brian, you really wouldn't want to make all these changes during the bye week, but truthfully, they really didn't have much choice because they don't have the personnel to keep up with these one-on-one matchups in man defense.
No, and we've heard it, and people who are watching this have probably heard it as well. Tyson Campbell, the rookie who the Jaguars desperately need on the field. They're looking at him to replace C.J. Henderson. But he struggles with his back to the quarterback, which is what happens in man. So they're going to try to put him in a situation where they can get more from him. Is it a dramatic change? Yeah, I mean, on surface, yeah, it seems that way. However, all these guys have played zone at some point in their career. The coaches have coached zone. It's just a different call.
You can get interceptions in zone because the defensive backs are looking at the quarterback, so they see the ball more, and you're going after the ball rather than looking at the receiver. The hope is that they increase those two takeaways, get a higher rate of those, and start getting the ball for the offense a little more. They had to do something because this team hasn't been able to cover well in man-to-man this year.
Yeah, frankly, it wasn't working the way it was, so you don't fault them. You have to make a change during the bye week. And now it's time for Finding Solutions, presented by UF Health, delivering compassionate care and world-class outcomes. Visit ufhealthjax.org. The NFL trade deadline is approaching very quickly. It is this Tuesday, so if the Jaguars want to make a move, they have to make it quickly. They have a ton of cap space, Brian. It is a great place to be in. Do you foresee them? Maybe the biggest thing is that receiver position. It has been very upfront. They need more speed on this team. Do you address it by Tuesday and go get a receiver?
Well, if you're asking me if I'm the general manager,
you are,
without a doubt.
In this case.
Without a doubt. And I get the reluctance on the part of some players. In other words, trading for a guy who comes in with 11 games left on his contract. However, the guys that I would be looking at, a Brandon Cooks, an Allen Robinson, a speed guy, an alpha kind of guy that can help this quarterback develop, they're still 29, 30 years old. You can get another contract with them. Yes, I would absolutely do this. And you can be sure that they are evaluating all sorts of opportunities to go and get it. They don't have speed. John, they know they don't have speed. And 11 games, it's not like there's 4 games left or 7 games left. There are 11 games left, and we're on the cusp of November. That's a long schedule. So I would go find that guy.
If he's fast enough, if he's the right fit, and if he's going to be here for 2 years and not 11 games, I think you do it. I don't know if I do it for A-Rob. I love A-Rob. I think he's an alpha, but I don't know that he's fast enough to fit what they're missing right now. I'm not sure where he fits in terms of helping the other guys on this team. I doubt they do anything that excites people. I believe they'll keep looking.
Well, what doesn't help this equation is that wide receiver DJ Chark is out for the season with an ankle injury, so this makes this trade deadline even more interesting, so we will pay attention to that. Much more coming from Brian Sexton and John Oehser here on Jaguars Weekend. Coming up on TIAA Bank Jaguars Weekend, Trevor Lawrence's confidence is growing, especially with his connection to the team's leading receiver. Jeff Logman tells us more in the Cadillac Film Room, next.
Jaguars Weekend is presented in part by TIAA Bank. Turn potential into progress. And by Geico. Saving people money on car insurance has been in Geico's playbook for 85 years. Visit geico.com today and see all the ways you could save.
Eventually you have to put that into action. You got to go win a game, and it took us 5 games to do that, but now we know, if we prepare, if we play together, play a full 4 quarters, we can beat whoever, and that just made that a fact. Before that it was like, well, we haven't won any games so far, and we still had confidence, but at some point you got to win.
Sometimes you have to prove it to yourself, and that is exactly what Trevor Lawrence did with the Jaguars' big win in London. Welcome back to TIAA Bank Jaguars Weekend. I'm Ashlyn Sullivan. When the Jaguars signed wide receiver Marvin Jones in free agency, they knew he would provide a veteran presence in the locker room. Well, he's doing that and more. He's the team's leading receiver with 343 yards and 3 touchdowns. Quarterback Trevor Lawrence trusts that when he can put the ball anywhere near Jones, he'll catch it. And that's huge for a rookie quarterback's confidence. Analyst Jeff Logman tells us more in the Cadillac Film Room.
The chemistry between Marvin Jones Jr. and Trevor Lawrence has been very apparent from the get-go. It started in training camp, and the time spent together is showing on the football field. Let's take a look at some plays. And we're going to start with the first home game against the Denver Broncos. Marvin is on the top of your screen. This is a go route. Watch when Trevor throws the ball. He's not even past the defensive back when he lets it loose. This is an outstanding job of anticipation, but also trusting your wide receiver and also understanding the defense. Great job of these two connecting. And here a play from London. This is a chip pass rush by the linebacker Jerome Baker. He knocks off Ben Barch, and J-Rob picks him up, stays on him. But the former Clemson product Christian Wilkins loops around and comes into the face of Trevor Lawrence. And under duress, you're going to go to those who you trust. And Trevor finds Marvin Jones Jr. And it's not a great pass, but it's just enough. This is chemistry. Here with this play right before the half, the Jaguars are down by 10 points in London, 47 seconds left. Sometimes when a guy is covered, you gotta trust him and give your guy a chance. And Marvin Jones Jr. is covered by the defensive back, but Trevor lets it go anyway. And Marvin makes a great catch in the end zone for a touchdown. This is about connection and time spent together. Now in London, the 4th quarter, you're down 17-20. This is called a critical moment. Also, it's 3rd and 9. Where do you go? To somebody you trust. And Trevor throws it to Marvin Jones Jr. But this is also about trusting a guy and knowing exactly where it's going to be. It's called unspoken understanding. It's the back shoulder throw. And Marvin does an excellent job of making sure that the defensive back does not have an opportunity at making the play. A critical moment at a critical time, and you gotta trust those that can perform. And Trevor clearly trusts Marvin Jones Jr. Clearly, Trevor Lawrence has a great connection with Marvin Jones Jr. And as the season progresses, you would like to see that happen with more of the wide receivers. And I think that will come. A young quarterback is certainly progressing.
It is no coincidence that Jaguars alumni stick around and continue to call Jacksonville their home. This is a great place to live. Former players never lose that want to give back. Former linebacker Kevin Hardy treated military families to a movie night. It's this week's Baptist Health feature.
Active duty military veterans and their children enjoyed a free screening of Ron's Gone Wrong on Salute to Service movie night. presented by Patrick L. Basil Plastic Surgery and Wellness.
We have a wonderful event going on where we're partnering with the Jaguars to host a movie night. We have some of the cheerleaders from the Roar, some alumni players coming out. It's just great to get together, have a good time getting the kids together, meeting new people. It's just a great event.
Jaguars legend Kevin Hardy was on hand to show appreciation to military guests.
It's a way to show our appreciation for the military and the veterans that do so much for us as a community. Obviously, the military is an important part of the fabric of this community. To have an opportunity to come out and to support them and just to having a night off where they can just relax, enjoy their families, and watch a movie.
Guests receive free movie tickets, a free popcorn and drinks, and event t-shirts and Jaguars giveaways, plus a meet and greet with the Roar of the Jaguars and Jacksonville. For Jaguars Weekend, I'm JP Shadrick.
There's more to come on TIAA Bank Jaguars Weekend.
Kids are going to come in, have lots of candy. They'll get to tour the visitors' locker room.
We celebrate Halloween with the Jaguars and season ticket members. Next.
I'm working with this team. I'm working with this organization. So, got love for the 12, miss the 12s. But when I come in there, it's about Jacksonville and the city behind me. So.
Cornerback Shaquille Griffin is returning to Seattle, where he played 4 seasons with the Seahawks. Now he's a captain for the Jacksonville Jaguars, looking to build off their first win. We're back on TIAA Bank Jaguars Weekend. The Jaguars are getting into the Halloween spirit this year. The team invited hundreds of season ticket members to the stadium for a little trick-or-treating and, of course, a haunted locker room.
Halloween finally feels somewhat back to normal as the Jaguars were able to welcome over 1,000 season ticket members to TIAA Bank Field for their tour and treat event.
When you buy season tickets with the Jaguars, it's not just about coming to games. It's about coming out, getting to know your rep a little bit better, mixing and mingling with other members, and having fun at the stadium.
Every costume you could imagine was there. And there was trick-or-treating, games, and of course, a haunted house inside the visiting team locker room. All in all, this event was created so the Jaguars and their fans could celebrate a holiday together after a long year of being apart thanks to COVID-19.
Obviously, last year was completely different. We weren't able to host as many events, but this year we were able to do it, which very happy that we could do so. Obviously, with social distancing, masks are involved, and people could just kind of come out and enjoy and be safe.
A huge surprise for the evening was revealing the 2021 Jaguars Fan of the Year. Longtime season ticket member Latricia Henderson is going to this year's Super Bowl on behalf of the Jaguars and couldn't be more excited to represent her city and her favorite team.
I'm very happy that the Jags are sending me to the Super Bowl to represent them. I represent them all year, not just football season. I love the Jags, and I'm just really excited.
For Jaguars Weekend, I'm Brian Sexton.
Still to come, Brian Sexton and John Oehser are back to get you ready for a West Coast trip.
I think just making sure you're getting your rest, trying to stay on schedule as much as you can. But I think after going to London, that'll help because that was 5-hour difference. So this won't be near as bad. But so I think that'll actually help us because that was just 2 weeks ago. So we're not really worried about that. But I think it is important, obviously, to hydrate. It's a long flight. Get your rest, make sure you're in bed, get your sleep because we're there a night early. So that'll be good.
Luckily for the Jaguars, they just had a very long flight to London, so they get this whole cross-country flight thing going on this week against the Seattle Seahawks. Welcome back into the huddle with Brian Sexton and John Oehser. One guy you are paying attention to for this game against the Seahawks.
Outside linebacker, defensive end Caleb Chason. We've seen bursts from him. We've seen moments where he's impacted the quarterback. He's got to force the Seahawks offensive coordinator to pay attention to him, which could free things up for Josh Allen, who is their best pass rusher. You need the rush to create turnovers. You need turnovers to win.
Well, I think you've got to watch James Robinson right now in this offense, so I'll just put him aside and say you could say that every week. This week, I'll go with Shaq Griffin, the cornerback who played for Seattle. It's a cliche every week when you're going to a road city if a guy's on your team and played there. But the 12s are such a big deal in Seattle. Shaq's such a dynamic guy. It's got to be special for him. I'll go ahead and say I think he gets that elusive first pick and maybe turns this game around. They need that to happen, and Shaq needs to do that.
That would be an awesome moment for him. It would also be awesome for the Jaguars, who would get their second win of the season and pull off a major upset in Seattle. We'll see if they can get it done. Thank you for tuning in to Jaguars Weekend. We will see you here next week.